it took me by surprise. That was the blind, what I didn't see coming. It took me by surprise that they no longer wanted me to be part of the family. I was crying all the time. I couldn't get out of bed. I don't know if I was depressed or what. I have no idea, but I couldn't move forward. I was stuck. And I remember this. I was looking at social media, and this lady posted something about wanting to be part of an anthology and to write about something, the blind spots, what you didn't see, what eyes didn't see coming. And for me, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that my sisters will turn against me. I didn't see that my sisters will reject me. I didn't see that I'll be totally ostracized from them. I didn't see that I would be left out in the cold and lonely without any family. So my first piece of writing was to write about that. So I wrote my chapter, which was called Green Eyes, because everyone was telling me that there's a problem here and I couldn't see it. I was in denial. No, my sisters love me, they wouldn't do that to me or anything like that. So I was completely in denial. But the pain in my heart that I was feeling, I just couldn't move forward, and the emotions were palpable. So I wrote my chapter called Green Eyes, and I shared my journey, my experiences, and the story and how they treated me, and the point where I felt that I had to forgive them. In order for me to move past it and get on with my life, I had to forgive them. So I wrote a letter to them in this chapter. And I told them, do you remember the good days that we had when we were children and all the things that we did growing up together? And asked them, how did it come to this? How did it come to this? What did I do wrong? Share with me so that we can move forward. So I wrote that letter, and I felt that once I wrote that letter of forgiveness, it was as if a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I can't put it into words. I can't quite describe it. But for those people who have forgiven other people, there's this weight. And I think also people think that you forgive people for them, but you don't. You give forgiveness for yourself. And I didn't get that at the beginning, because I'm thinking, well, I didn't do anything wrong. Do you know what I mean? Why do I have to forgive myself? But in order for me to move on, I had to forgive them, and I also had to forgive myself. So once I wrote that apology, once I wrote that chapter, it was very cathartic. That's how I can explain it. It was very cathartic, and it allowed me to move on. Don't get me wrong, it's not simple, because sometimes, there was times when I found myself they were trying to draw me back in just to sort of like spit me back out again. Do you know what I mean? So I had to be mindful and look after my personal well-being. So that was how my writing, or, start of being an author, started with writing that chapter in that book, which actually became Amazon bestseller, actually. And it was the foreword was written by Lisa Nichols, who is an American motivational speaker. She's really up there in the world of motivational speakers.
Yeah.
One
of my favorites.
Oh yeah, she's brilliant, isn't she? When they said that she's going to write the foreword, we was like, what? She's going to write the foreword to our book, to the book that we've compiled. I'm like, wow, And then the lady was saying, oh, she's so busy, she might not be able to do it. And I'm like, no, I'm prepared to wait. I want her to write the foreword. So she wrote the foreword for that book. So I was quite happy about that. Yeah, so that just led me on to thinking about relationships, and that abuse doesn't just happen in relationships with intimate partners, it happens with family members as well. And I think, previously I worked with women who had fled domestic abuse, and I provided emotional support for them. And so that led me to writing my fictional debut book called Walk Quiet, Run Quick. Is it okay if I show that?
Yeah, of course, yeah, go for it, yeah. So the program is for the benefit of everybody, so yeah.
Yeah, I wrote this one. It's called Walk Quiet, Run Quick, and it's a fictional book that it just highlights how easy it is for a woman or a young girl to fall into an abusive relationship. And the fact is, sometimes they don't even know that it's happening. So I wanted to talk about how easy it can be, but I wanted to put it into context. So for me, the only way that I could do that was to write, was because I was thinking about it on, if you were to do it on stage, do you know what I mean? If it was to be a film or a play or a documentary, how those abusive behaviors can be put into context. And my main
Yeah.
character, she's she's a businesswoman, you know, she's middle class, she's educated, you know, she's got her own home, own business, she runs a magazine and stuff like that. But yet,
Yeah.
because of her background, she was quite vulnerable. And so she met this guy who said all the right things to her. You know, she just wanted someone to love her, you know, because her mother disowned her. She didn't know who her father was. And yeah, she fell into this trap where, you know, this guy pursued her, um, you know, and before you know it, they were living together and things like that. And she found herself in an abusive relationship. So that's the reason why I wrote that book, just to create this awareness for the young girls. And I had, you know, I was awarded actually. I was given an award for that book for the storyline last year, which
Yeah.
I'm quite proud about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, and then that led me to write um, the relationship
That's something
jigsaw
that,
here.
right. Excellent. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
It's got
that
really
one.
vibrant colors. Yeah, really nice.
Well, I mean, if you see on the front, you can see a heart with
Yeah,
puzzles. That's mean, and you're just putting in the right puzzles, because when you're in a relationship, I thought about it. The analogy was a jigsaw puzzle, and sometimes we're trying to force this puzzle into, force this piece into the puzzle, and it doesn't fit. And because you want it to work so badly, you know, you'll stay in this abusive relationship. You'll tolerate these things, knowing that it's not good for you. So in that book there, that's a non-fiction book. It talks more of how to empower yourself, and highlights it breaks down the traits of domestic abuse, because a lot of people think that it's just physical. And I really wanted to tell people that there are other traits to abuse as well, and that they need to be aware of these other traits as well, to prevent them from being coerced or controlled in a
yeah,
relationship.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and then it
And if
also
you don't
goes.
mind me asking, sis, yeah, sorry, I'm
Mm,
cutting you there. If you don't mind me asking, just out of curiosity and from awareness perspective as well, do you feel that there is any set pattern, any specific kind of abuse that we tend to suffer mostly coming from our kind of backgrounds?
um, I think, I mean, from what I've read, I mean, there, like most backgrounds, there is that physical abuse, but it's probably that name calling. And I think, coming from a black background, women are always seen as this independent, strong women. You know, oh, we don't need a man. That's what goes on in our culture. We don't need a man. You know,
Yeah.
we're strong, we can stand up for ourselves. So when you do find yourself in an abusive relationship or a situation, you probably feel that, okay, well, I can't say anything to anybody because I'm supposed to be this strong woman. You know, I can deal with it myself. And you know, that's, you know, such a wrong stance to take, because
Mm.
you know, you shouldn't be put in that situation. You shouldn't. Um, I mean, by staying, you're just condoning the behavior. Do you know what I mean? You're saying
Yeah.
to that person, you know, that it's okay for you to hit me because I'm not going to tell anybody about it, or
Yeah.
abuse me or try to control me. Um, so I think it's difficult to pinpoint any specific one thing, other than the fact that if you are in an abusive relationship, which can be controlling as well, that you need to leave and not stay, and think that it might
Yeah.
get better. Mm.
Yeah, definitely. Regardless, because it is, there have been precedents that domestic violence is prevalent in all sorts of ethnicities, backgrounds, religions, nationalities, you name it, and they have it. And I think, if I had to understand it at a deeper level, I'm thinking most of it comes from people's personal insecurities of,
Mm.
having lost their own identity somewhere in some
mm,
shape or form, maybe when they've been younger, because
mm,
that's what they say, that usually the perpetrator themselves have been exposed to that kind of a cycle before for them to then replicate the same vicious cycle. So it's
mm,
their own internal insecurity, that they've lost their identity somewhere, in the rut, and then they're trying to regain their identity back, trying to connect with their real self through power and coercive control on
mm,
whoever that they think they may be able to control.
yeah.
What would you like to comment on that?
I think we need to be careful when we choose our words. I think simply because one assumes that if you're a perpetrator, then if you've seen it in your parents' relationship, then you're going to grow up to be like that, and that's not the case. We must say that that's not the case, because I know men who have told me that they've grown up in abusive relationships, but they have not abused their partners. But I must also point out that I remember a woman that she used to be my nanny actually. When I was telling her about my book, she was saying, and about my story, she was saying it was wrong of me to tell that to the people, to tell my business. That's what she was saying, to tell my business, because it's got nothing to do with anybody else. And that's one of the things where we're told when we're younger that we mustn't hang our dirty washing out in public. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've grown up with. We mustn't tell, what's happening behind closed doors to other people. But then that's the
Mm,
problem. And when we have,
mm,
people like that saying things like that, and that's why, women will not come out and speak out as to what's happening, because they don't want to bring shame um, onto their family. So,
absolutely. Yeah, agreed. And it's the same in my culture as well.
mm,
Back home, the expectation from a woman is that now that she's going to be married, she has the entire responsibility of upholding a family household and keeping it together,
mm,
making it work.
mm,
Although when they're marrying you to another person. So what does that essentially mean? That two people come together in pursuit of excellence and creating thriving relationships. So then
mm,
why is the expectation only from one person and not the other or both?
yeah,
So
yeah,
the
yeah,
entire pressure on the woman,
yeah,
she has to make it happen. So if it
yeah.
works, excellent. She had all the support system available. That's
Mm,
why it
mm,
worked. But when it breaks down, it's her, the one
mm,
who's at fault. Hence the reason I'm
yeah.
thinking that understanding automatically then puts a man in a higher position in his own mind, that
Mm,
this is how women are being treated.
yeah.
So then
Mm,
if the household gets broken down and they're to blame for it, then we have, an easy escape. We can
mm,
behave with them whichever way that we want to. So
mm,
I
mm,
absolutely understand, where you're coming from, because it's quite predominant
yeah,
in our community. The fact that
yeah,
it's more patriarchal, so
yeah, yeah. It's
yeah,
frustrating
yeah.
because the onus, as you just said, always seems to be on the woman. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if there is so much pressure in the black community in terms of the hierarchy, um, because I know that some women, yes, they are strong and they're not going to tolerate that, and they're not submissive, or don't want to make themselves inferior. But I really want to hear why some men feel that it's their right to treat women like that. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
so it's
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
difficult.
absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. And then again, until and unless people like ourselves don't speak about our own personal experiences, how
Mm,
else do we, intend to make people aware? Because I
mm,
feel as though it's our responsibility to convert our mess into a powerful message and then
mm,
share it with people to prevent
mm.
them from falling into the same pit as we did. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
totally different era now that I compare myself with today's, young adults. Bless them, they're quite more switched on, on
Mm,
top of their game as opposed to how I was back in the
Mm,
days
mm.
when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
We weren't topics, like marriage and postmarital relationship and what to expect and this, that, the other. They weren't
Mm,
spoken about. This was
mm.
like a no-go area. You were just
Yeah.
expected to go into it, get married, and then explore for your own self.
Yes.
No tools were given to you to bounce back. You didn't know what
Mm,
to expect. The other party is showing you the world from their lens,
mm,
and you're coming from a place whereby the world seems totally different to you because you're used to looking at it from your own lens, and
mm,
then your
mm,
entire identity gets shaped and conditioned and molded. You're
mm,
forced, or say conditionally, forced to or manipulated to see the
mm,
world from their lens, and to then
mm,
also accept that to be true. you know
mm.
it
Yeah.
may not fit into your own value system. It might be totally against that, but the fact
Mm,
that you've not given those tools to bounce back, or even be able to decipher right to wrong and
mm,
wrong to right. And
mm.
specifically, if you're married
Yeah.
at a very young age, then you
Yeah.
would it's easy for you to get conditioned very, very quickly and easily and fall
Yeah.
prey to that kind of nefarious designs, if you like. And then
Absolutely.
that's your
Absolutely.
world. That's your world. You just
Mm.
continue taking abuse and living in it, thinking this is what marriage is all about, because
Yeah.
you haven't been given
Absolutely.
no education. You
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
been told anything. It was like a no-go
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, and I think
Wow.
that's where I started Stop Sweeping It Under the Carpet, which is my Facebook show. Do you know what I mean? So, and on Stop Sweeping It Under the Carpet, because I don't even know how the name just came up because we sweep so many things under the carpet, and this is just one of those things that we sweep under the carpet. So I thought, well, okay, so let's talk about this. Do you know what I mean? Let's stop sweeping these things, these taboo subjects under the carpet, because you
Yeah.
know before we used to not talk about cancer. Now we're talking about cancer as if it's nothing. Now we're quite. It's easy for us to talk about it, and I want it to come to that place where it's easy to talk about domestic abuse as well. So that's why I invited um, women to come onto my show, and men. I've had men come on my show as well to talk about their experiences, because when they talk about their experiences, they have told these other women, they're sharing their story with these other women, and to let these other women know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that it will not always be like this. This is what happened to me. Do you know what I mean? And I thought I wouldn't be able to come out of it, but here I am. I've gone through that. It wasn't easy. I've come through it, and I want to share my journey and my story with you to empower you if it's something that you are going through. So that's why I started Stop Sweeping It Under the Carpet. Um,
Yeah, yeah. It's a fantastic show, very candid, yeah, yeah, very extempo.
yeah,
I loved it. Loved it,
yeah,
yeah, because I was there on your program 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it was
yeah,
fantastic. Yeah,
yeah,
it felt
yeah,
very calm, very, comfortable in my skin talking about the personal experiences. Otherwise, usually people are reluctant to share their personal experience. So I
yeah.
felt quite comfortable and welcome, very
Thank,
warm ambience and welcoming, yeah, environment. So,
thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
um,
good.
so on
It's
that
good.
note, I'm just thinking. Yeah,
Mm.
sorry, you were saying something.
No, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's just if someone wants to talk about it, sometimes they want to share their story, but they're not sure what platform or who to talk to. So it just gives them a space where they're not going to be judged, and at the same
Yeah.
time, empower somebody else that may be going through something similar. So,
Absolutely. And more so, I've seen that, specifically I talk about people from our own community or my community. We try to just box ourselves in within our own community. We wouldn't open up. And if we did, then we'd rather talk to somebody from our own community because we just think as though they'll be able to resonate with it and nobody else would. So I would
mm,
highly recommend people from my own community, men and women, to
mm,
approach you and jump on board and talk about their personal experiences, because
mm,
as we mentioned earlier, that domestic violence is prevalent and it's happening in every community, in every ethnicity. It's got nothing to do with religion or ethnicities or race or backgrounds. There's some more psychological underpinnings to the issue which we can touch upon in another program. But yeah, I would highly recommend, sisters to reach out to Sister Jacqueline Francis on her Facebook page by the name of She Empowers. No, stop sweeping it under the carpet, isn't it?
Well, my page is Jacqueline Francis. She Empowers, but the program itself is Stop Sweeping It Under the
Yeah.
Carpet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So if somebody has to contact you, so then they go on your Facebook page, they look you up from your name.
Yeah. And then just send me a message in Messenger. That would be fine. Yeah, I'll pick it up and respond.
Excellent. Yeah, I would highly recommend anybody of you, amongst you who wants to share their experience and be able to create greater awareness, to a wider audience. I would recommend that you contact Sister Jacqueline, and she'd be more than happy to intervene you.
They do say that our stories are not for us; it's for other people. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's selfish of us to keep our stories of what happened to us to ourselves, because once we share it, again, as I said, you don't know who may need to hear it there and then. It may not be you, but you may know somebody else who may be going through it. So
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely, and makes you feel peaceful from within as well, you see, because your vision of giving back can only be compelling enough if it's people-centered. And how can you make it people-centered unless people don't take the priority in your life? Serving other people doesn't take, priority in your life. And that's a part and parcel of your own healing process as well, I suppose. The more I talk about it, the more awareness I create. I feel as though, okay, 10 kg off, another 10 kg off, and I'm feeling lighter and lighter.
You're absolutely right, because I remember when I first shared my story at an event, actually, and I didn't have anyone to hold the camera and take a picture for me. So I asked this lady, I didn't know her from anywhere, if you can just take a couple of pictures of me or video it. So I started sharing my story, and then when I finished, she said to me, "Oh my God, I thought you were talking about my story. That was me." Do you know what I mean? And my experiences with my siblings, so we caught up, exchanged numbers and stuff like that, and we caught up afterwards, and we spoke and stuff like that. And then when she contacted me a couple of months later, actually, she came back to me. I met her. She said to me, "Oh my gosh, I now have a fantastic relationship with one of my sisters, and I just want to say thank you, and I'm like, you're welcome, so that's what it's all about. It's not, I mean, maybe she hadn't heard my story, because she herself had tried to communicate with her sisters, and they just weren't interested. But she spoke to them, and she was just so excited that now she's able to build a relationship with her sister again. So yeah.
Excellent. Yes. So see, you've played your part now. They need to take it forward from there. Yeah. Excellent. Because you talk a lot about developing domestic peace. So how do you suggest, or how would you recommend people being able to achieve that?
I think domestic peace is more about the awareness, the education, and the type of support and the signposting. Do you know what I mean? And just trying to highlight you as a person. What do you want in your relationship? How do you want to be treated in your relationship, in order so that it doesn't come to that point? What boundaries are you setting yourself? Do you know what I mean? How it's about trust and respect, and being able to have your own friends, and not being told by your partner that you can't talk to that person, stuff like that. Again, education. How do you, I don't know, I want to choose the right words, but I'm quite mindful. But to create domestic peace is to have equality, and not just for women in the UK, all around the world. It's just so heartbreaking to know that young girls, young women are being trafficked, who are being sexually abused and raped. Do you know what I mean? And it's very heartbreaking to know that. But if we have these open conversations, if we educate ourselves, if we create these awareness, if we create boundaries for ourselves, then you feel empowered. And if you feel empowered, then you're not likely to end up in an abusive relationship, because you know your worth. Do you know what I mean? And if you know
Yeah.
your worth,
So would,
then you know that you're not
yeah.
going to tolerate anything from anybody. And if you do feel that's that type of behaviour coming along, then you're strong enough to walk away from it and say, well, no, look, I'm worth more than that. I don't need to stay here and be treated like this.
Yeah. So you're talking about self-worth. So then does that mean that in order to develop magical relationships with others, your own personal relationship with yourself needs to be
Mm.
magical in itself?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because if you don't love yourself, don't expect somebody else to love you. Do you know what I mean? You have to be, and I do talk about self relationship a lot, and I know that's something that I had to go through. Do you know what I mean? After my experience, I lost myself. I didn't know who I was. And, um, did I have to be? Do I have to be with my sisters, or to believe in what they believe in, and adhere to their values? What about my
Yeah.
values? What about the things that I want to do? What about the things that I want to achieve? Do you know what I mean? So, I had to, do a lot of affirmations. I did a lot of watching videos, empowerment videos, Lisa Nichols, for example, and Oprah, for example, and Les Brown, to empower me and to find out who other than being, Jacqueline Francis, mother, do you know what I mean? Who was I? What did I enjoy doing? What did I like? What did I want to achieve? What is a legacy that I wanted to leave? So you have to dig deep and look within yourself. And I did a lot of, I did meditation, I did yoga, I still do yoga for, my personal well-being, which is important. So yes, as you said, it starts off with you. What you don't want is to be in a relationship where you have other people validating who you are. Um, you know,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's the straw that, breaks the camel's back, in a sense that, yeah, people at some point, I mean, I've seen people continuing in abusive relationships, just like myself. I was in it for 12 long years,
mm,
continued in it, even though that I knew it's not serving my higher purpose in life. But
mm,
eventually, lo and behold, you will come to a point in your life whereby you will realize that I do not need validation from an external source for
mm,
me to exist, or for me to know that I exist and I have the
yes,
right to exist.
yes.
So the sooner we find that out, we figure that out, the better it is for us.
And
That
that's
the
why we're
only way,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you see, lots of women, lots of men as well, suffering perhaps some kind of a trauma. They need healing, low self-esteem, low self-confidence, might have suffered sexual abuse, rape, trafficking, county lines, drug addiction, you name it, and it's prevalent in our community, whatever the problem may be. Um, it's just one of those things that, in order to overcome these issues and that trauma and the grief associated with the, past experiences, from your conversation, I've taken that two things are very important. Number one, to forgive, so that you
Mm,
can get rid of that baggage, that burden that
mm,
you're carrying on your shoulders, and
mm,
yet you're toiling in a pursuit of progressing and moving forward. Because
mm,
obviously, what has happened, and you can't change that. You had no
yes.
control over it. You don't
Mm,
have no control over your future either. The only
mm,
thing that you do have in control is your now, which is the most
mm,
powerful moment. And what you
yeah.
make out of that is what is going to define your future.
Yes.
So, in the present moment, I think people need to make the best use of the tool forgiveness. to forgive other people so that they can heal from within. So that's one powerful thing that I picked up from the conversation. And the other thing is self-worth. Know who you are and
Yeah.
connect with yourself. Until and unless you don't know what you stand for, you'll just fall for anything.
Yeah.
So now on that note, Sister Jacqueline, how would you suggest people, or what tools are available, or what kind of support system, or what kind of activities or actions do they need to take in order to get to know who they are and to get to know their self-worth? Because most of us, we don't know that.
Okay, so you may have done it years ago. For me, I used to write poetry. So even before I started writing that part in the anthology, I was writing poetry. I'm a big reader, so I used to read a lot as well. So, read a book, an empowering book. Exercise, again, exercise is a good thing. I used to do, I started in school, I used to play netball. I was the captain and vice captain at netball. So I thought, okay, let me find if there's any netball things going on in my area, which there was. So I joined up and I played netball for a while. I enjoy walking, so I did a lot of walking. And these things, they don't have to be they're not expensive. It's not, you don't have to pay to walk. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yes, it was being grateful for being able to wake up for the next day, or grateful for the things that I have at this precise moment in time. Affirmations, doing exercise, start something new. Or re-educate yourself, because I know that I went back to college. I don't know what I was thinking. I had 2 children and I went to college because I needed to find out who I was. Do you know what I mean? So my idea was just to go and study something that I enjoyed, and I enjoyed French. At the time, I enjoyed learning French. So I did that. And then I went on the Access course. And then before you know it, my teacher was saying, well, why don't you apply for university? And I'm like, I got a mortgage here. I got 2 children here. I'm a single parent. I can't do that. Do you know what I mean? What are you saying? I'd have to give up my job. Then I thought, you know what? Let me put it in the hands of, whoever. Hands on whoever. And I gave up full-time work, and I went to university and I graduated. And then I actually went on to do another degree. So it's not impossible. And that's why I also want to empower, single parents, who have children who think that it's impossible to do, but it's not. So those are just a few things that you can start off with, in terms of self-relationship, and trying to, find out who you are and what you're good at and what is it that you want to do ultimately. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's pretty much all that I do as well. And another thing that I do is to take a kickstart of the following day is that I do a lot of journaling as well. So that then primes my brain in the night that I know, okay, this is how I intend, and then set intentions that this is how I intend to, take a kickstart of another productive day. These are the 3, 4, 5 things that I need to get done within a stipulated time, and then I'm free to do throughout the day whatever that I need to do.
Absolutely.
And affirmations are very, very important, because it's all about when people say, "Oh, affirmations is just another bluff," I'd say. But what I tell them is this, that one sec, sis. Yeah, okay. So what I tell them that, look, whatever that you may want to call it, self-assurance or reviving self-confidence or affirming yourself, it's all about giving your subconscious mind that positive message that it wants in order to act accordingly, because our subconscious mind is very, very compliant. Sorry. Okay, so there is a live poll coming in, sis, so we need to take that. Okay. That's excellent. However, I can't listen. I can't hear the person. Hello? Hello?
Hello? Hello,
Ji,
I've got a
Assalamualaikum.
question for Jacqueline Francis. Are you hearing me, please?
Yes.
She can
Hello,
hear you. Yeah.
I've got a question for Jacqueline Francis. Can my voice be heard?
Yes.
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 Hello,
Hello.
I've got a question. In Muslim religion, if a woman is divorced or she's condemned and she finds a misfit in the society, is this the case for other religions and cultures also? Thank you.
No. Well, in our culture, in the black culture, no, it's not an issue. Um, and I understand it from your perspective in your culture that that's what happens, but it doesn't happen in our culture, not to my knowledge anyway, and it's never happened to me, and I don't know anyone that it's happened to. So the answer to your question, I would say, is no.
Thank you very much for calling in. We move on to the finishing, as I'm being aware that we come to the ending of the program. So we've got two very
Can I
important.
just quickly go back to? I know that you touched on journaling, and again, that's I. Thanks for reminding me about that because that was a huge part for me to move on, and I want to encourage women, girls, anybody really, to journal. And you may not be a prolific writer. You don't have to be a prolific writer, but because there were times when I'm writing and the tears are streaming and I can't even see, I'm blinded by the tears, but it allows you to get all those emotions out of you. Do you know what I mean? So that is a way forward as well for self relationship, for self love. To a point where I even designed my own journal because I've been journaling for over 20 years now. I've got all these stacks of journals, and I thought, okay, well, let me just design my own journal, which is this one here.
Wow.
The unraveled soul. So I've divided it into different sections. So when you're writing, when you're talking, subconsciously something is happening to you, as you just said, subconsciously, and you feel so much better for it. So as I said, if you haven't started journaling now, then that would definitely be something that I would recommend that you do.
Excellent. And I'm thinking you've been journaling in the form of your books as well, you see. That's what it is,
Yeah,
putting thoughts, pen on
yeah,
paper, That's
yeah,
a
yeah,
fantastic way of not only healing, but also, care fronting for yourself, basically, giving
yeah,
yourself positive
absolutely.
messages and then
Yeah,
acting accordingly. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And on that
absolutely.
note, Jackie, you spoke about writing a book, right? In
Mm,
fact, you've written a couple of books, and they're really, really, what would I say, informative, because it pretty much covers all the pain points of a human, if you like, and it's
mm.
more focused towards the last one specifically, the jigsaw, of a relationship.
Relationship, yeah.
So, would you be able to touch upon how to write a book if somebody's interested in writing a book and they don't know where to make a start from? How can they
Mm,
be able to kickstart with writing a book?
mm, mm. I think it's not as difficult as people may think it is. I think the easiest part is probably I think the easiest part is writing what you want to write. And if you do want to start writing a book and you don't know where to start, just start writing. Do you know what I mean? Don't overthink it or anything like that. Just start writing. Once you start it, because it's going to be edited anyway. Do you know what I mean? You may end up doing 2, 3, 4 edits. When you've done your manuscript, you send it to the editor, the proofreader. You get someone to design the cover for you. You may actually you get someone probably to promote it, or if you want to promote it yourself. Um, so it's not as difficult as one may think that it is, but it's just the time. People say that they don't have the time and they don't have the patience. And I think because, I mean, I have the patience and I had the time, do you know what I mean? So, and the message was clear. There was a message that I wanted to send out to women and young girls. So that motivated me. So if you are interested in writing a book and you're not sure where to start, please don't overthink it. just start putting pen to paper or get on your laptop, and start typing. The walk, quiet, run, quick, that was about 45,000 words or something like that. And it may seem a lot, but when you get into the swing of things, you kind of get carried away. And it doesn't have to be a big, thick book or anything like that. Walk, quiet, run, quick is a novella. So that's about 45 to 55,000 words or something like that. So if anyone wants to write a book, my advice to you is just to start writing.
Excellent. On that note, before we wrap up, Sister Jacqueline, would you like to leave our viewers with a final message in terms of how to create domestic peace and how to not suffer in silence and step out of a violent relationship?
Yeah, okay. So again, for me, creating domestic peace is talking about your experiences, to empower other women. We need to create equality, we're not just talking about in the UK alone. I must emphasize that all around the world, globally. Look within yourself, work on yourself first, because you can't give from an empty cup. Once you start working on yourself, then you're able to provide and empower other women. If you are in a relationship, an abusive relationship, and I'm going to be careful here, I'm not telling you to leave. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know the volume of the abuse and the type of relationship and the circumstances surrounding it. But what I would say is to make a plan. They say that people attempt to leave at least 35 times. Do you know what I mean? But we must also be mindful that once you do leave, it could actually be worse. And maybe that's why women tend to stay. But there has to come a point, just like you said, you were in your relationship for 12 years. We are talking openly so that you don't have to stay in those relationships for 12, 20, 50 years or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You can make the decision to leave now once you start putting a plan in place. So that's what I want to say to those in a relationship at the moment.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us on our program today, Sister Jacqueline. Take good care. जी नाजरीन, आज हमारे साथ मौजूद थी जैकलीन फ्रांसिस, जिन्होंने हमारे साथ बहुत इंफॉर्मेटिव बातें की हैं, बहुत अच्छी स्ट्रैटेजीज, टूल्स और टिप्स हमारे साथ शेयर किए हैं। उम्मीद करती हूँ कि तमाम तर इंफॉर्मेशन जो आपके साथ आज शेयर की गई है, आप इसका इस्तेमाल करते हुए अपने रिलेशनशिप्स को convert कर सकेंगे from striving into thriving relationships going forward, inshallah. Until next week, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.